get in it. Come on, stand with me a little bit. I know we had you standing a long time, but hopefully by now you went ahead and slipped your shoes off and you're comfortable. I told you the other week when we read the story about David and Bathsheba, I said we're coming back to this one. And so we're back in 2 Samuel, the 11th chapter. As we're getting ready, and I do need your prayers for this. We're getting ready to step into this new series. I don't know how long I'll be here, but I do know that we are encroaching on a subject that the enemy doesn't want us to touch. I know that. The warfare I've experienced, even the anxiety. I preach a lot, so preaching, I still get a little nervous, but the anxiety that I feel this morning has nothing to do with my abilities to preach. The anxiety that I feel is a demonic world telling me, leave this alone. Leave this alone. But we've got to talk about trauma. Trauma. And so I need you in prayer for me as I study for this in the weeks to come. And even as I present it to you today, it requires a tremendous amount of vulnerability and transparency, which works against what you naturally want to do. And so I've got to go there with you. And so if during this series, I'm asking you to be more empathetic, be more supportive, be more kind. Amen. Today is more introductory. We're going to get a little deeper in the muck in the weeks to come. But I'm going to touch some tender spots. And you're going to be able to tell as the dispositions of your neighbors shift, as your own change. Because some of you have been doing a masterful job of pretending to be whole. But tormented when you're away from us. Church is exhausting to you, not because we demand so much, but because you pretend so much. That by the time you leave here, be free. 11:1, it says this. Then it happened in the spring, at the time when kings go out to battle, that David sent Joab and his servants with him and all of Israel, and they destroyed the sons of Ammon and besieged Rabbah. But David stayed at Jerusalem. Something was going on with the king that made him not want to do the thing he was good at. It takes a lot for you to not do the thing you know you're good at. Now when evening came, David arose from his bed and, I never noticed that. I'm sorry, I just got to hit you what I see. It says when evening came, David arose from his bed. I didn't even catch that. David is in the bed before it's dark. What's normally going on when you're in the bed in the middle of the day? Depression. And so he walked around on the roof of the king's house, and from the roof he saw a woman bathing. And the woman was very beautiful in appearance. So David sent and he inquired about the woman. And one said, is this not Bathsheba, the daughter of Eliam, the wife of Uriah the Hittite? David didn't hear any of that. David sent messengers and took her. And when she came to him, he lay with her, had sex with her. And when she had purified herself from her uncleanness, when she got up and washed herself off, she returned to her house. And look at verse 5. The woman conceived. A few minutes ago, she was Bathsheba. But now that she's pregnant, she's the woman. And she sent and told David and said, I am pregnant. Verse 26. Now when the wife of Uriah, still nameless, heard that Uriah, her husband, was dead, she mourned for her husband. And when the time of mourning was over, when it's time for her to stop crying, David sent for her again and brought her to his house. And she became his wife. And she bore him a son. But the thing David had done was evil in the sight of the Lord. You may be seated. I want to talk to you this morning. The series is trauma, but the sermon today is Bathsheba's story. Bathsheba's story. One of the reasons I've been so hesitant and even avoiding of this series is because this series was born out of some very private conversations I was having with God. And I'm getting sick and tired of telling y'all how me and God talk. And so in these conversations, God and I are continuing to deal with my life and the subject matter that I'll be looking forward to, that I can discontinue talking about. But for now, he still makes me talk about it. And I went to God, Travis, and I said, listen, can I just, can I stop being pastor for a minute and just be Wendell? And he answered me, he said, you ain't never been my pastor, you their pastor. He said, you've always been my son. I said, well, can I come talk to you like a son? He said, what's on your heart, son? I said, I'm mad. I'm trying to fake like I'm not mad, but I'm mad. I'm bothered. I'm really bothered. And I said, I'm going through probably the most difficult time of my life. And I'm amazed at the insensitivity of the people I serve. I said, I'm amazed at the Negroes that I've been faithful towards and given my time, my life, my lot to them, 40, 50, 60 hours a week. I hold their secrets. I know who they really are. I'm amazed at the insensitivity, and I'm mad about it. But I got to get it together because they need a word. Too transparent for you? So it absolutely amazes me the ones that I've patched up are now strong enough to throw stones. I'm amazed at me. I'm amazed. I'm really amazed. It amazes me that folks that have been married 2, 3, 4 times are now living with somebody. Trying to act like my situation is so disappointing. Like, Father, can they not see that I'm already hemorrhaging? Can they not see I'm already bleeding? Can they not see it takes everything I got just to get up? And if it wasn't for your anointing and your grace, I would fall apart. And there have been many Sundays I did fall apart. I just had enough strength to make it to the elevator and I just collapsed when nobody else could see me cry. But yet they feel safe to create narratives about me that don't match my character. They've never seen that of me, and they've been close. I'm amazed at the number of people now making a power grab because they think there's blood in the water and I'm weak. But God, I keep trying to tell them the worst thing you can do is run up on an animal that's wounded. The worst thing you can do. And the folks you helped put back together now are in crowds talking about me. And some of you sitting here now saying hallelujah on top of your guilt. It was wrong. And I said, how do I deal with that? And so he let me get it all out. And he said, are you ready to listen? He said, I don't mind you telling me how you feel. He said, I know, but I know you need to get it out, but can I talk now? And I said, no, I ain't finished. That was just the folk that sit on the left side. Let me tell you about the Negroes on the right. And I said, yes, God. He said, let me explain something, son. He said, most of the reaction that you're getting ain't even about you. He said, come on, be real. He said, unfortunately, divorce happens now in such frequencies that it doesn't surprise most people. So the reaction ain't about being surprised. In most cases, it ain't even about being disappointed. It ain't even about you. He said, but what you don't realize is that the decision that y'all made triggered their trauma. He said it triggered their trauma. And now they got a place to put it. And it happens to be. So, Lord, that ain't fair. He said, but that's life. He said, you've done it too. He said, you triggered something. And he said, son, what you got to understand is that when you trigger things, he said, triggers are normally attached to things that explode. When you pull the trigger of a gun, it causes an explosion within the chamber that jettisons the bullet out. When you push the trigger of a bomb, it causes the things inside the bomb to explode, to ignite and explode. He said, triggers make things blow up. And he said, what you're experiencing is that you have now hit people's trauma that ain't got nothing to do with you. And you've created explosions. See, this reminds me of when my daddy left my mama. See, this feels just like when Sam left me. I'm watching my children go through some stuff, and they're going through stuff. And listen, this shouldn't be happening in the church. You see, I don't have anybody, and I'm up in age, and I was living vicariously through y'all. And y'all gave me hope that it could be possible, and y'all have messed up my dream, Pastor. What trauma has a tendency to do is to cause you to blow up new things because you have been healed from old ones. And you've been suppressing for so long, and things that have been under pressure that long are looking for an outlet. And the moment you give an outlet, that thing that's been hurting me, I get to now spew on you. And somehow I can convince myself that if I can just release it, I can get rid of it. But when you spew it on somebody else, you wake up the next day, you still got it. You just infected another. And so now they have trauma. Somebody say trauma. What is trauma? Put that definition up for me, Regina. Trauma Trauma is the experience of severe mental distress following a terrible or life-threatening event. Trauma is the experience. I went through it. I didn't hear about it. My neighbor didn't go through it. I went through it. And what happened to me sucked me into it, and because of it, I had severe, extreme, beyond measure mental distress because of the event that I decided was terrible, or an event that felt life-threatening. And listen, what makes the event, you got to get this, what makes the event feel traumatic is this, Kim. It feels traumatic because what happened to you was greater than your ability to make sense of it. When something rose up in your life and you don't have some place to put it, because believe it or not, you got all of these mental categories that you're functioning with. And so when life shows up, you know where to place things. And if I can place it in the proper place, that means I understand it. And if I understand it, I can stand over it and I can control it. And it doesn't control me. I know where it goes. But when trauma shows up, I don't even know how to respond to it, but it still gets on the inside of me. And since I have no place to put it, it roams free in my mind. And it begins to damage whatever it comes into contact with. I'm in distress because I don't know what to do with this. I don't know how to respond to this. Ain't nobody ever talked to me about this. This thing is beyond my maturity. It hit me way too soon, and my mind is literally blown. It's running around, and it's damaging everything it touches. See, that's why most of y'all, when we deal with you with trauma, come on, don't let your neighbor distract you. When we deal with trauma, we have to most of the time go back to your childhood. You know why? Because you was too young to handle things. And you were exposed to stuff. You didn't have the experiential level or the maturity level to deal with. You had nothing inside of you to retrieve. Nothing to pull up. Nothing to counter the move. And so you absorbed whatever came at you. And so you couldn't approach it logically or reasonably. You had to approach it from a defensive mechanism. So all you could do was survive the moment. And so most of us are still stuck in a survival mode. We shout about being more than a conqueror, but I learned at 7 just how to survive, just to grin and bear it, just to whatever happened in this house. When we out in public, everybody grins and smiles. Don't you tell nobody. You better not tell nobody but God. Trauma. And you think you survived? No, you became an incubator. You became an incubator and a carrier. Carriers contaminate others. And so trauma that's not dealt with, trauma that's not categorized, trauma that is allowed to run free in your mind does all types of damage. And some of the results of the damage are things like this: extreme anxiety. Can I teach a minute? Extreme anxiety. See, I had to say extreme because everybody has some degree of anxiety. Every now and then something hits you, right, Brian, that makes you a little anxious. But I'm talking about extreme anxiety. Anxiety that takes your breath away. Anxiety that paralyzes you. Anxiety that makes you not want to show up nowhere. Anxiety that makes you get to the door and go, I'm going to go all the way back home. Because you're anticipating revisiting the trauma. If I open this door, I know what's behind this door is going to be greater than me. I'm so afraid that life Kyron is going to be greater than me. So I'm not just a little anxious. I'm extremely anxious. And so I make my own world small. And it's impossible for me to serve a big God but think that I'm small. It ain't, and some of the other stuff that comes out of trauma is anger. Anger. And normally it's that anger that's right underneath the surface. That anger that keeps that scowl on your face. Yeah, if you thought I was talking about you, I am. That keeps you defensive and easily offended. What you talking about? Hello? It's right there. And I've taught you that anger is destructive to you biologically and mentally. When you are angry, your ability to process information takes a nosedive. Let me prove it to you. Watch this. How many of you in here have said some of the dumbest things when you were mad? Don't be lying. I'll be every hand up in this house. When that anger kick in, you say stuff, it don't make no sense. Ain't no vowel, ain't no nouns and adjectives connected. You cussing and cuss words don't even fit no more. All of this stuff going on because you mad. And anger reduces the power of your brain. And then once you calm down, you somewhere shame because, man, that was stupid and destructive. But if trauma can keep you there, what kind of life you got? If you just a ticking time bomb everywhere you go. Everybody know you as being somebody that's going to go off. Because when you listen, when you that person that go off, they warn folk before you get there. You can't even make new friends. You really can't. You can't make no new impressions, none of that. Because they know you coming and he just pulled up. Now, listen. Don't do this. Don't do this. Don't do none of this and this because hey, you don't want none of that. And then you come in and you feel like everybody rejecting you. You know everybody's scared of you. Let's keep moving. I know I'm telling the truth. Because you be trying to warn folk. Listen. You don't want none. It don't take much. You don't want to be the person they say it don't take much. Because then you'll never have much. Because people are your doors. People are the keys to your opportunity. Men given to your bosom. If a person got to second guess whether or not they can take you somewhere. Let me say that again over here. Because this side got quiet. If a person got to second guess whether or not they can take you somewhere. Because they don't know which version of you going to show up. Y'all know. Y'all got people like that. You pull up and pick them up. As soon as they get in the car, you looking at them. You all right? You all right? Because we ain't got to go if you ain't all right. You all right? Y'all laughing, but everybody got somebody in mind. But the reality of it is they got all this trauma that's been unresolved, and it has to manifest itself somehow in anger. Let me keep going. Another way that it manifests itself is in this perpetual state of sadness. I got this melancholy, woe is me disposition. If we're picking victims, I'll go first. I'm ready to be victimized since life has already taught me ain't nothing but a victim. And if I'm willing to be a victim, folk will oblige. Did y'all hear that? If I'm willing to be a victim, there's several people like, oh, cool. Come on, I got some victimization for you. You want to be taken advantage of? Come on, I'm good at that. They're ready for you. Here's one that hit me hard. Another way that it manifests itself is in what's called survivor's guilt. Survivor's guilt. I'm the one that made it out, but they didn't. And now I keep telling myself I didn't deserve to come out. I'm the one that lived, they died. I survived cancer, they died. Survived the accident, they died. This family member passed away, we didn't fix it, and so I'm guilty that I'm still living, that we didn't even get to recognize, so I'm going to punish myself that I live. PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, doesn't just come, it's another form of this stuff, and it doesn't come just because you went to war. I'm willing to bet 99.99% of black people got PTSD. When you live in a system that tries to teach you that you're less than constantly and you're fighting to come up, and you're not only fighting the system, sometimes you got to fight your own folk. I already got a system that's been worked on for centuries. I can't fight you too, but somehow I'm being traumatized by the fact that I'm one of you and trying to be better. You don't want me to be better because that now makes you feel bad about where you are. And so at every chance I get to tarnish your name, here I come. That I'm dealing with and trying to come through. And when you got these things working on you, listen to me. What they do, all that I talked about, most of that is going on the inside. It's a war going on the inside. But how we recognize it on the outside is that those things damage your ability to have personal and professional relationships. Everything that you wish to attain in life, and definitely everything that God wants you to have in life, requires that you know how to relate to people. You will not be an island in the kingdom. But what trauma does, it makes it difficult for you to relate. Because the closer you get, the more I spew. And so traumatized people have a hard time hanging on to folk. Because truth be told, the only way you got that interest is that you performed. Y'all hear me? But it becomes too difficult to perform day in and day out. You get tired and you mess around and slip a little attitude out. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Where'd that come from? You call me what? Who are you? The curtain's drawn. I get to see who the actor really is. You somebody on stage, but after the show is over, you drop the character. And so it damages personal. If it's damaging personal, also damages professional. If I can't deal with people professionally, I can't improve myself financially. So you find people in this cycle of despair. I can't make the right connection to come out because once I connect, I damage the connection. And I can't talk to folk who can help me come out because I can't be professional because this trauma takes over at the worst time. I say inappropriate things when I ought to be sitting at the board table with my mouth shut. But you just triggered me with a question you asked me because I'm not used to people questioning me. Y'all looking at me like I'm talking about you. Okay. Talking about me too. And so in order for me to advance, in order for me to have accelerated vision, I got to be able to get this stuff in me healed. Because what happens is that when I find myself in this cycle of trauma, all the stuff I described to you, what state it leaves me in and what state it leaves you in is a state of low self-esteem. Self-esteem. Who's supposed to have the ability to esteem you? You. But if I'm damaged repetitively, I don't have any strength to lift me. And what's even worse about it is that if I get low, I'm more vulnerable to more trauma. Because I stop thinking that I'm worthy of being protected. When I'm low, I don't have boundaries. When I'm low, I don't say no. Whatever you want, whatever you like. And that attracts the people who aren't concerned about your uplift. They're concerned, they see you as a stepping stone, a temporary fix. I just want to take what you have and move on. And so watch this, in an effort to defend ourselves and fix ourselves without the help of God, because we self-medicate before we seek help. We self-prescribe before we seek help. And the way that we normally self-prescribe, psychologists call it this. Psychologists say we create what's called a false self or a defensive facade. In other words, you're faking it. And so you create this persona. Listen to me now. Watch this now. You create this persona that you think is designed to protect you. You're a lady, but you're hard as a dude. You're a dude, but you got to be a thug because you want folk to get up off of you. And so you create these personas that you think scare people. You create these personas that you think give you respect. But here's the part that's so deceptive, but you're gonna agree with me once I say it. It don't matter what persona you create, you can't stop life from showing up. I don't care how hard you thought you were, guess what? You still got hurt. I don't care how bad you thought you were, hurt still showed up at your door. I don't care how tough I don't care how good you learn how to cuss, how to fight, all that stuff that normally we learn in the hood, or you got to learn at the bus stop just to survive the bus stop. Anybody know what I'm talking about? Can't be no park at the bus stop. But no matter what you tried to do, no matter how hard you tried, no matter how gangster you think you are, life still showed up with something that buckled your knees. Who in here created somebody that couldn't get hurt no more? It's a lie. It didn't work, did it? As a matter of fact, it looked like it put a beacon on your back and say, send hurt here, send hurt here, send hurt here. They faking, they ain't hard. Come on, get close enough, you see they like cotton candy. Am I making sense? So self-medicating don't do nothing. You got to figure out how to get this out. Give me a few more minutes. And so one of the most difficult parts, again, I apologize for the light show. We got them off sync this morning. One of the most difficult traumas to overcome is sexual trauma. Am I right about it? Everybody talks about David, but we rarely spend enough time on Bathsheba's story. Bathsheba's story is a story of not just trauma. Bathsheba's story is a story of sexual trauma. According to the CDC, the Center for Disease Control, who follows all the statistics, they tell us, listen to this, because I want you to look around the sanctuary when I give you the statistic. It says that 1 out of 5 Americans has been molested. Just look. 1, 2, 3, 4, you. 1, 2, 3, 4, you. You. We're harboring sexual trauma. No category to put it in. So here you are 20 years, 30 years, 40 years after the event, and it still runs free in your head. And is impacting your personal and professional relationships. And so, Bathsheba's story was one of sexual trauma to David, the king, who everybody uplifts and glorifies. And again, David is proof to us that you ain't been so bad that God can't use you. Because David did some stuff that was horrific. Because in the text, it says that the king, clearly going through, he's sleeping in the middle of the day. He finally gets up. He doesn't go off to war. Depression will make you lay down your best stuff. And when you lay down your best stuff, you have a tendency to pick up your worst stuff. If you don't stay in the thing that gives you purpose, you'll pick up the thing that gives you temporary satisfaction, but normally that thing is at somebody else's expense. And so here's the king out on the rooftop trying to figure whatever it is he was trying to figure out, and he's being stripped of purpose, and when he's been stripped of purpose, he's left with his most base animalistic instinct. You see it all the time. You find a man who don't know his purpose, he still know how to screw. He still know how to impregnate folk. Because he's trying to figure himself out, and he's looking for a way to empower himself. And so the king is on the roof, and his place stands above everybody else's place, and he's walking, trying to figure his own life out, and all of a sudden his contemplation, his deep thought is interrupted as he catches sight of someone bathing. And he calls his workers. Who's that? Oh, that's Eliam's daughter. Because I need to snap you out of it. I need you to snap out of it, King. Snap out. That's Eliam's daughter. Elam has been your warrior for years. That's Eliam's warrior. But I've laid down purpose, and I'm seeing thighs and hips and butts and breasts. Well, that's Uriah's wife. Bring her to me. And I can imagine Bathsheba's there, trying to take care of the house. The husband's out of war, trying to make sure everything is cool. She gets a knock on the door. The king wants to see you. Me? Wants to see me? Oh my God, the king. I get to go to the palace. What could he want? The king wants to spend some time. Let me. How would y'all be? Let me get this. This ain't appropriate. Let me put something on. Because I'm getting invited to see the king. This is the man I idolize. This is the man I look up to. This is the most powerful man in the kingdom. And he wants to see me? Oh my gosh. Let me go see it. And they're walking her in, and I can imagine she's going, where are we going to meet? Am I going to get to stand before the throne? Am I going to meet him at his throne? Where am I meet? Isn't that the throne room? Okay, I guess we're not going there. Where am I going to sit at his table? I heard it's an honor to sit at the king's table. Are we going? But there's the table right there. Why am I in his bedroom? Why am I here? No conversation. No courtship. This ain't even an affair. Ain't got no roses. Ain't got no little sweet emoji texts. I wonder if he even know my name, but does he know my husband? Why is he undressing me? And I can't tell him no. He got too much power. I can't tell him no. I'm here. He's there. I can't stop him. And I can imagine. Her mind kept drifting to her husband as this man who Just minutes ago, I idolized is now on me and in me. And I'm feeling incredibly violated, but I can't show it because he's the king. So normally in sexual trauma, you learn to survive by the way. Your defense mechanism will allow you to just leave the room. And the part that got me, Tina, Regina, do me a favor, put verse 4 up there again. Can y'all do it for me real quick? Be there with Bathsheba. David sent messengers and took her, and when she came to him, he lay with her. And this is a line that some of you can relate to. And when she had purified herself from her uncleanness, she returned home to her house. The picture there is, he's done now. And she in the bathroom, cleaning him off. Doesn't even bother to walk her home. And then in one verse later, because just a few verses, he needed to know her name. And now she's just the woman. Because it wasn't about her identity. It was about a function. She was serving a function for the king. See, like many people who have been abused sexually, they find themselves wrestling with confusion. Because remember now, trauma is, I got this in my head and I have no place to place this, so I'm confused about what has happened. What is happening right now? How am I in this position with the king? This is so wrong, but no, it can't be wrong. But it don't feel right. It can't be wrong, though, because he's the king, and the king owns everything, and the king owns everybody. So officially, he really isn't raping me, but since he owns me, he gets to take whomever he wants. And so it was legal for the king to do this to me, but I've learned that stuff that's legal don't mean it's moral. It don't mean it's right just because it's legal. It doesn't mean that it won't leave a scar just because it's allowed. Slavery used to be legal, but it was never right. And it has left scars and trauma that we feel 200 years later. That's how damaging it was. It was never right. It was just legal. And just because the king had the right to take me, he shouldn't have. Because now I'm dismissed. Take the woman back to her house. Damage. Sexual abuse is always about gratifying the older person or the stronger person. Say it again. Sexual abuse is always about gratifying the older person or the stronger person. This was never about Bathsheba. And for many of you, it was never about you. It was about somebody needing to feel powerful. Sex has always been a tool used to restore power. And it ain't just men. Ladies, y'all have gotten pretty good at it too. Because I imagine after years and years of being subjected to the trauma, you created a false self that said, if you want it, let's barter. It's always been about power. A man that is considered to be virile, that means a man who's able to have sex, is called potent. A man that can no longer perform, has some type of dysfunction, cannot maintain an erection, he is called impotent or impotent. potent. The word potent means power. The power from a male's perspective is found in his loins. And so when it's done properly within the confines of a marriage, the woman feels her husband's power, but she knows it's my power too. It feels protective instead of invasive. But when it's done outside of the will of God, or even worse yet, forced upon you, all you feel is being subjected and made small by the power that's being imposed upon you. It's about power. Ain't no intimacy in it. Don't you remember your name? You can interview men in prison who have raped other men in prison. They would tell you, I ain't gay. I did it for power. Slave owners will rape the women and the men in front of other slaves. Why? Power. I need all of y'all to see who runs this. And I'm going to find the one that y'all seem to look up to, and I'm going to humiliate him, her, in front of you. Traumatize them to the point that they'll never be able to lift their heads up again, and you'll be discouraged from lifting yours. It's about power. David wanted power. Bathsheba was the subject. What did it feel like to be her? And not only that, did David subject her, she also knew you had my husband killed. And the Bible said, we read it, the Bible's real kind to David with how they expressed this. They said after the period of mourning, David comforted her. How does the king comfort? I just finished wiping my tears over the man I really love, and you send for me again. Except this time you make me your wife. I'm number 7, but I'm your wife. I'm one of 7 wives running around here when I used to be Uriah's one and only. You thought she hit the jackpot? No. She's just nameless in the palace. And if we read a little further, you can see how she fights for power. She begins to try to promote her son Solomon just so she can have somebody to cover her, somebody to protect her, because she knows in this house, I'm subject to be called at any moment. My name ain't mentioned. I got something he wants. Trauma. So how do we deal with this before we go? Again, this is just introductory. We're going to stay in this vein one more Sunday. How do we deal with this? How? The problem came in the beginning when I didn't have any place to put this. What has to happen now is not some easy 1, 2, 3 step process. That when you've got this trauma that's been rattling around in your soul for all these years, the first thing you got to do is get it under control. And how do you get it under control? You say, God, what is this? It ain't going to take a meeting with me. Maybe I can give you some stuff to get you started. But at some point, you got to go get with God. And find yourself in the same place I was in at the beginning of this sermon when I go to God. God, I'm mad. I had to run. I got to be real honest with how I feel. God, I'm disappointed in me and you. And so you need to help me. You need, because your name is at stake, your glory is at stake. This thing's rattling around in my soul. I need to know where this stuff needs to fit. What is this? What is this? Where do I need to place this? And once you get through crying, he'll say, can I talk now? And one of the first things he's going to make you do is call it what it was. I was raped. He was a pedophile. It wasn't love. I was too young. Because when I call it what it was, I give it back to the perpetrator. And I quit carrying it like it's mine. I didn't do this to me. And so now you get to give it back. And then God begins to explain it to you. Because in his explanation, watch this, he goes beyond just describing what it is. He tells you why they did it. And as he begins, watch this, here's the part you may not like, but it's the part you need. When he begins to explain to you why, you begin to find common ground with the perpetrator. And once you find common ground, it becomes easier to forgive. And once you forgive, you're not freeing them. You're freeing you. And then something amazing happens. The thing that once tortured you, tormented you, now becomes a plank in the platform God is building. Because once you understand it, the shame of it begins to dissolve. And Scripture says they overcame by the word of the Lamb, the blood of the Lamb, and what? The word of their testimonies. When I can talk about it, I'm free. When I can talk about it, I'm free. And they did not love their lives unto death. I can tell you what happened to me. As a matter of fact, I can find out who, I can look at you and see who has common ground with me. You got that same move that I got. You got that same mannerism that I got. Come here, let me talk to you. Come here. Let me tell you, because you look like you think you in it all by yourself. You look like you think you're the only one that's going through it. You're so caught up in shame that you're not giving yourself to anybody who winks at you. Come here, let me talk to you. Let me talk to you, because you're never going to retain your value by giving away your goods. Come here, let me talk to you. Let me teach you how it's okay for you to be celibate. It's okay for you to be alone for a while. You need to heal. Come here, let me talk to you. Let me show you how God showed me how to survive a thing, because you keep running from place to place trying to match your action with the confusion in your mind. You're never going to solve the problem. Sit still somewhere and let God tell you what and why. So you can finally stand on top of it. And you say, God, you ain't got to take it away. Just help me get on it. You ain't got to give me amnesia. Just help me get on it. You ain't got to help me forget. I can't forget about it. God, don't let it haunt me. Let me put it to work. I'm telling you now, in this, the Bible said this is a tabernacle, and if it's going to live in here, it's got to pay some rent. It's got to pay some rent. So God, help me make it work for me, because I'm tired of infecting other people. It ain't just me suffering. I'm taking the same trauma and sitting in the laps of others. And now I'm no better than the person I'm mad at. Them has become us. Heal me. Heal me. We'll pick this back up next Sunday. Come on, stand. Be determined. Look at somebody and say, I'm determined to get free. I'm determined. I'm determined. Let me say this. I skipped this part, and we're gonna pray, because what I just said reminded me of this. Because I need you to know the full truth. I need you to know the full truth. Let me stand up in this chair so I can finally be taller than my child. Breaking free from your false self is hard. Let me tell you why. It's making my eyes tear up. Because there are people who are invested in your false self. There are people who have figured you into the equation of their lives, and they cannot afford for you to change. They need you to stay broken. They need you to stay easily moved, and the ones that have the hardest time are the ones who had their hand in shaping you. Some of the perpetrators in your life shape your mindset. They put fear in you. They made you feel less than. They taught you that you deserve. They taught you that you are the reason it happened to you. They shape who you are, and they can't afford for you to break free. So you got to fight. And I'm going to say this to you. You're a fool if you forsake the assembly. Because you're going to have enough people to fight on the outside. You're going to need somewhere where somebody can look at you and go. Because you ain't going to get that on the outside. They're all too busy pretending. Am I making sense? But you got to fight. Look at somebody and say, fight on, good soldier. Fight on, good soldier. Fight on. Fight on. Fight on. Don't quit. Don't quit. Don't quit. You're almost free. You're almost free. You're closer to freedom than you think. You're closer to freedom than you think. Fight on, good soldier. Fight on. Fight on. Let's see what the end is going to be. Let's see what the end is going to be. Glory! Let's see what the end is going to be. Hallelujah! Let's see. Endured hell too long not to get to the finish line. Come on, bow your heads, bow your heads. Glory! Woo! Too far, come too far, come too far, come too far, God, come too far. Glory. Come too far. Glory. Glory. Master, we thank you for the peeling back of layers. We thank you for the pulling back of sheets. We thank you for shining the light on parts we wanted to remain dark. But at the same time, we thank you for how gently you handle us and how sweetly you talk to us to remind us that you're here to help us, not to hurt us. You have a good ending for us. One to bless us, to prosper us, and to do us no harm. Thank you, God. If you're in this place and you did not give your life to Christ earlier, here's your opportunity. You don't have to come down here with me. Just put your hand in the air where I can see if there's another. Is there another that's ready to commit to Christ, to join the fold? Master, we're going to leave this place a little raw. We may not even tell our neighbors, but doors have been opened that we had sealed. Thoughts that we had ran away are now fresh in our mind again. And the trauma is right at the surface. Help us to not suppress it again. This time we're going to give it to you. Don't care how I look, don't care how I sound, don't care how long I have to cry. Some of us are so afraid to cry, God, because we feel like if we start, we won't be able to stop. But this time, I'm going to trust you and let you count every tear. Unless you promise me something, then when I get through crying, you got a garment of praise for me. And I'm going to hold you to that. In the matchless name of Jesus the Christ, we do pray. I love you, CYM. Amen.